Hey guys, it's your best fight friends. I'm Rachel. This is Kelsey.
Hello.
And guess what? We're here to talk about your favorite fighter out there, Jake Paul.
He's your favorite fighter, Rachel's favorite fighter, my favorite fighter.
He's
What's next for Jake Paul, Rachel?
Well, I saw a story the other day, and it had a whole lot of comments on it, like people like taking it rather seriously, I thought. And that was that Jake Paul about him facing Canelo Alvarez next.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's surprising to me, that storyline in general. Did you also see, I know this, I'm dropping this on to you right now. Did you also see that there was a story that he was supposed to fight Mike Tyson?
No.
Yeah, and it was like a big enough story that Mike Tyson's team had to come out to deny that that's happening.
Okay.
So, like, there's a lot of rumors out there. Jake Paul versus Canelo Alvarez.
Yeah.
Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. Rachel, out of those two, who would you rather fight?
I don't know that it matters. But you know, there actually is a fight out there that I wouldn't mind seeing. And let's just call it like Rachel and Kelsey's like, you know, best trash fight out there.
Easily Tyron Woodley 3.
No.
No.
No, is Jake Paul to face a step in the ring with Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. And if you've watched our channel for any amount of time, we don't know why, but we love Julio. We just do. He has a special place in my heart, and I don't know why, and I refuse to defend it anymore.
You've seen me. I literally asked him on this channel directly, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., if he would fight.
You interviewed him. I'll link it up here.
Yeah. So this is a fight I am super interested in. I think, in fact, Jake Paul, if you want to fight Canelo and Mike Tyson and whoever else, you should have to fight Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. first.
He should be the gatekeeper for Jake Paul's future.
He should be,
boxing.
and he basically is, right? Because I don't know, I don't know who wins, honestly. Like and I like both of these guys legitimately.
We don't know who wins, guys. This is like it's a big deal. So okay, let's talk. We've all recently, pretty much, even if you haven't recently seen Jake Paul, which technically I haven't because I hadn't watched the last pay-per-view.
Yeah, he's one of, we don't buy his pay-per-views, but we consume the content, once it's on Twitter.
But you know about Jake Paul, you know what he's done. He's definitely green. Meaning he's got a lot to learn in the sport. But because of his celebrity, we're all getting to see it early, where we don't usually get to see this with boxers early on like this.
Yeah, he's green like you would see a guy on the undercard. Usually those guys aren't in main events.
Or not even on a televised undercard, he's green.
Yeah, on that preliminary card.
I did see Julio Cesar Chavez's last fight, and that was against Anderson Silva. We got that. Now that fight was hosted in Mexico, on a platform that I hadn't used before. I didn't even expect the commentating to be in English, but they did have this particular one was in English. There were, obviously one in Spanish as well. So we were sure, right? Anderson Silva going over. The thing is with Julio is you kind of throughout his whole career, you don't know how Julio's going to walk into the ring. Because, man, talk about a guy he's got some potential.
He's had some life moments.
He's had some life moments, but he had, potential as a boxer. And I say had because at this point, now seeing him against Anderson Silva, impressed. Color me impressed.
That should be the next. If you can beat Chavez, actually, maybe then you should fight Anderson Silva.
Right, and just mix that MMA and boxing because apparently Anderson Silva, he can step in a ring and dominate. So it was interesting, and what it did is what it showed me is okay, you know what, Julio, I already figured he was past his prime. This pretty much seals the deal on that. But Jake Paul is inexperienced enough that all of a sudden, I think it levels out a little bit, and it levels out even more because these guys are close to the same size.
Because here's the thing. As hard as Jake Paul has worked and as good as he's looked against the guys he's fought, which is impressive, and knocking out Tyron Woodley like that, you're not going to hit Chavez Jr. with that same punch because he's been a boxer his whole life. He's not going to make so many huge mistakes for single punch knockouts. He'll make mistakes, but not in the same way, right? And honestly, Chavez Jr. has a heck of a chin. He's big, he's not as small as Tyron Woodley. So legitimately an interesting fight. And really, I would love to see this fight. I will buy this fight on pay-per-view if it happens.
Totally would.
We will totally buy this.
Even if it's on Triller, I think.
And I'll be happy with whoever wins. Did you know, fast fact about Kelsey McCarson, Rachel, the first main event fight I ever covered from ringside, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. versus Peter Manfredo. That's when he won that WBC belt, I think, a long, long time ago. He's been one of my favorite fighters ever since.
Fun fact about Rachel is that you know this about me. I don't know if you guys know this about me, but I don't have a super great memory. But one thing that I always remember is being at the Sun Bowl in El Paso, watching Julio Cesar Chavez and Andy Lee in that fight. I remember it. And guys, I was not ringside. I was actually in the first row of the stadium seating. Yeah. So you think about it's the Sun Bowl, where they're at in the middle. But I remember when that fight changed. Man. When Andy Lee went from boxing to screw it, I'm just gonna brawl with this guy, and then lost the fight.
Bad move.
But epic. I thought epic fight. I don't think, I just have that image in my head.
Oh yeah, and that's that's for me. Same. Two of my most memorable boxing experiences were Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Now that you say that, so I'd love to make it a third. Why don't you just have it in Houston?
And then have it in Houston, and maybe we'll go.
Totally come if you guys come here. Anyway,
let us know what you think. Do you love Julio like we do?
Where do you stand on Jake Paul?
Do you want to see Jake Paul take on Julio Cesar Chavez Jr.? That's a long name, it's a key, but I like saying it, guys.
What if he was Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. the third?
How would that happen?
I don't know.